Hi friends. I'm going to talk about color mixing tonight. I thought that might be fun. I have a bag of color chips someplace that I could not locate. I thought that would be really useful. I collected them one time, and that's a great tool, by the way. You can get them free at any paint store. Some of those color chips even have a hole in them, but you can practice your color mixing. Put it right on the color chip, or the ones that have a hole, you can put over your mixture. I've done that with my group before. I've taken in color chips, and it's just a fun thing to do, to try to mix your paint and match your chip. So this is the palette basically that I use. This is what's considered a limited palette, and this is what I would recommend to anybody starting out: is a warm and cool of a blue and a yellow and a red and your white. That's what I have used from the beginning. There are two other colors that I use that I mention every time. I use Indian yellow and transparent red oxide too, but we're not going to use those tonight. I would recommend to you, if you're a beginner painter, that you consider working with a limited palette. Absolutely start out that way. You don't ever have to use more than that. You can make every color with that palette. I use water mixable oils. Cobra is the brand that I use most. I love Cobra. So we're going to squeeze out. And another thing I would recommend, this is just palette paper that we're playing with here. We'll see how well it works. It may soak up the paint, I don't know. But get in the habit of laying your palette out the same way every time. Put the colors in the same way, same place every time. Tonight I'm just sticking them out here. This is ultramarine blue, and I think every painter uses ultramarine blue. Ultramarine blue, even though blues are cool and red and yellows are warm, I would get a warm and cool blue. Ultramarine is my cool blue. For me, cobalt blue is my warm blue. But there's other options. You can always go to a good paint store and they will help you set up a palette. Yellows can be confusing, in my opinion, to determine which is cool and which is warm. This is Cad Yellow Medium, which again is a very common color. Most painters have that on their palette. That is my warm yellow. Little bits of stuff off the edge. And this is Cad Lemon. And you can kind of tell if you look at that. That is my cooler yellow. I'll get them closer to the camera here in a minute. I mean, as you look at that, you can see that that has more blue in it. My two reds, Cad Red Light, which is my warm red, and Alizarin Crimson, which is my cool red. Now I'll get these closer to the camera and you can look at them. Kind of under the lights, you can kind of tell. Again, I mean, obviously blue is a cool color, but ultramarine is my cooler color and cobalt is the warmer of the two. See, when you look at this, you can kind of tell by looking at that has more blue in it. So that's your cooler yellow, that's your warmer. And obviously with this, crimson has blue in it, so that's your cooler red. Now, it's a good idea to get a good book on color mixing. It can be really helpful to you. I did that years ago. Here's some of the things that they talked about. Say you're making a purple. You want to take your ultramarine blue, which is your cool blue of the two, okay? And you want to stay with if you're going to make a purple, a true purple, you want to stay with your cool red because it has blue in it. Not that you couldn't make a purple from the Cad Red, but if you put the crimson in, I think this paper is going to soak this up, but we'll see how it goes. We'll put a little white in that so you can see. It's a beautiful purple, ultramarine and crimson. Now the fun things is, okay, you've got that purple. Now you can pull it you know, hope you can see what I'm doing there. You can put a little more crimson in it. Okay, and a little more white. And you can pull it to a more of a mauve-y purple color. So you can pull it one way or the other. And of course you can adjust the value. The more white you put in it, the lighter it will get and the chalkier it will get. That's a mistake a lot of people make with portraits when they try to lighten the skin tones. And I've done it too. You get too much white in there and then the skin tones get very chalky looking. For a really true orange, I would use my Cad Red Light, which is my warm red and a beautiful color, and your warm yellow. And this will be the purest orange that you can make with this palette. Beautiful. I'm hoping you can see this okay. I know the colors don't always read correctly through the camera, but that's a beautiful pure orange. Now again, when you start putting a little white in there, you can lighten it. Generally what I do if I'm trying to keep it nice and warm, and I put some light in there which lightens it but also cools it. I wonder if we can get you any closer. Hoping you can see okay. Again, that would lighten it and it also cools it. To warm it back up, I usually throw a little more yellow in there. And then that makes it a nice rich color. So again, if you want to get a really pure purple, go with the ultramarine because that's your coolest blue, and go with the alizarin crimson because that's your coolest red. And then for a nice pure orange, again, you want to use your warmest yellow and your warmest red. But I mean, there's all kinds of ways. Say, for example, I mean, play around, try some things. I mean, let's try some ultramarine. And then let's try the Cad Red Light. I would never do this to get a purple, but let's see what we get. I mean, these are things you can do, fun things to do. It's probably going to be, yeah, it's more of a grade purple. Not as beautiful. I mean, look at the difference in color of the two. That's the ultramarine and the Cad Red Light. I mean, it's just a grade kind of purple color, not near as rich and pretty as the other two, see? And the same would hold true, say we're trying to do the orange like I showed you. Take some Cad Red Light, and then we'll take our cool yellow. You know, we're just trying some things here and see what we get. Cad Red Light's a very powerful color. So my guess is, yeah, it's definitely more grade orange. This is, I'm hoping you can see these. This is a much vibrant, richer orange. This is more grade. So it pays off to learn the colors. I always make my own greens. Nothing wrong with having two greens on your palette, but again, I would go to it later on. I would learn to mix green first. Green, a lot of people say greens can be challenging, and they can be. If you're outside painting, some of the greens sometimes are just, they almost vibrate. They're so bright. But I go for my ultramarine when I'm outside. That's kind of, which is my coolest. But in this case, well, let's just try something. Let's try our cool yellow and our cool blue. Let's see what we get here. With a little white, which would pull it chalky. And try a little more of our yellow and then see what kind of green we get. Pretty green. I play around and sometimes I'll just do a pile of different greens. What I tend to do, which is what most people do, if you mix up a green and it's too intense and too bright, go across the color wheel. You know, you're mixing a green, you mix in a green, it's too vibrant, go directly across the color wheel and to your, which is red, and you throw a little red in there, and that kills, it grays the green and kills the intensity of it, and it can be a much more attractive green. I do find that I rarely work with a really pure green outside. But let's take some ultramarine now, and let's take some cad yellow medium. That's, a lot of the times that's the green that I'll work with outside. And again, you can always throw a little red in there, kill it, you know. And if you want to brighten it up, I mean lighten it up, a little white. A really useful thing is to get out there. If you're in no hurry, you can pre-mix a pile of greens. Have some warm greens and cool greens to work with. You can give yourself some options. And we're throwing more yellow in there. See, it's a more of a yellow-green. Let's take some of this real pure orange. Okay. Hoping you can see. Okay, this is a very, one thing, I've mentioned this before, but if you have a really pure, rich color on your palette and you want it to stand out, if you surround it, and I'm working on white paper quite obviously, and they do make gray palette paper, which can be really nice because it's kind of a mid-tone value. But if you surround your pure color with gray, it will really make your saturated color pop. Another thing painters do is they'll they'll vibrate. So maybe you take your rich pure color, okay, and around that, the complement to that red would be your green. So when you put the green by it, you know, it doesn't make it stand out like it does here, but it really, they say it makes it vibrate. The Impressionists knew how to do that really well, little pieces of color. Again, I was looking for my color chips tonight. I thought it would be fun to actually mix some color, try to nail, well, let's pick something off the color wheel, see what we can do. Let's do, it's called Red Violet. This is going to really be hard for you to see if I'm getting this right or not. That's Red Violet. And what I do if I'm trying to mix a color, okay, the first thing you ask yourself is, you know, what is the basic color there? What am I looking at? I mean, what's it closest to? And start with that. I mean, I'm going to start with a little alizarin crimson. You know, you got to start someplace. Okay, and then we're going to go with a little ultramarine blue. This is going to be similar to that first purple that we mixed up. Okay, and just start playing with it. Put a little white in there, see what you got. We're already very close to that. I don't know if you can see that. Like I said, I'm sorry I couldn't find my color chips because I had a bag of some really unusual colors I had picked up. Greens, and greens are really cool to mix up. But I mean, we're already really close to that. I mean, we're not going to find anything real far out on this color wheel, probably. Some of them down in here is a little interesting. Let's see if we can, this little piece in here, can you see that? The very pale, again, it's a green, but let's look at that. So where to start? Obviously green is going to be blue and yellow. It's a cool, very soft, let's start with a little cobalt this time. And we know yellow's going in it, okay? I'm going to try my my cool yellow this time, which is my lemon. I'm going to put a little more. Color mixing's fun. Sometimes I'll just play around and mix color. I showed you those red glasses. I also have a little sheet of red film, and sometimes what I'll do is I'll take a value scale and I'll look through those glasses. I'll mix up, and I'm trying to match value, you know, and I'll do it first, and then I look through the red glasses at my value scale and the color I've mixed to see how close I got it. You know, it's just a really good lesson. Okay, so we're doing this green here. This is a cobalt and this is lemon. So now I'm going after my yellow. Okay, so now let's see where we are. I wish you could see better what I'm doing here. I can tell by looking at this, it needs more blue in it. It's too yellow. It's fun sometimes just to take a lot of time on a painting and pre-mix all your colors. Okay, so I put more blue in it, but then I'm going to have to pull it lighter again and do some more white. But a lot of times I'll mix up a couple colors and then I'm working back into those same puddles, and I can pull those colors a long way. You know, it's surprising what you can do. Again, if I had the color chips, I could actually stick it on there so we could compare. I'll just do a little more white. But this is such fun. I've really enjoyed doing this. We are very, very close. I don't know, again, what you can tell from that. Very, very close. So, you know, start someplace. I mean, look at it and say, what color is that? You don't have to analyze it and say, is it, you know, a warm yellow or cool yellow, or, I mean, say it's a yellow. You start with it, put some yellow out there. Just start someplace. I'm getting paint all over this. But again, greens are probably the most challenging. Just be careful when you're, like, say, if you do paint outside, that you, generally you're better off to gray your greens a little bit, I find. But again, I don't know how enjoyable this is for you, because it's probably a little difficult to read these colors through this camera, huh? I'll try to find the color paint chips for next time, but that's something I would recommend to you. Get a pile of the paint chips, pick some colors that seem challenging to you. Again, greens especially are. And maybe don't start with a tube green. Start, you know, mix your blue and your yellow and start that way. Trying to think what else I could tell you here without having some color chips to match. But I have some other colors in here. I mean, like I said, I always have this, and I have transparent red oxide and Indian yellow. Indian yellow is a transparent yellow. So when I mix, I'll just show that to you. I always have Indian yellow on my palette too. So when I mix Indian yellow, and that's another thing that it's handy to learn too, which colors are transparent and which colors are not. But Indian yellow is a transparent yellow. Okay? Ultramarine is a transparent blue. So when I mix those two together, I've got a nice, deep, dark, transparent green. Okay? When I put that on my painting, if I push that harder with my brush, it actually becomes lighter and more transparent. I really like that green. Now this obviously is cooling, and it's lightening and cooling. And for it to be warmer, oops, I didn't mean to get that in there. I put more Indian yellow in it to warm it up. But it's not ever going to be a real, it's the dark green that I usually start off. I paint typically dark to light, thin to thick. And it's going to be the dark green that I start blocking in. Almost every painting that I do, I kind of do like a puzzle, even when I'm outside. So I block in those darkest areas first, with those two colors. Now, you could mix a big pile of that and just keep working out of that. I mean, you can take it, you know, and warm it up. That same green, I mean, you can do a lot with it. You know, you can pull it all over the place. It's a little hard to work on this paper. It's kind of soaking up, you know, but you can do a lot with it. I took a workshop once with a wonderful painter named Mark Boges, and he would, in areas of his painting, he would have the most saturated bright greens. It was shocking to me. I was surprised any painter would use those colors, but it worked. I mean, he is so good. And when you're outside in the spring, I live in Ohio, the greens just are shockingly saturated bright greens. But again, you may not want to paint them that way because your painting can be shocking and just too much. I almost always end up gray in my greens. But again, if you're new to it, I would start with this limited palette. I'll tell you again what they are if you want to write it down. Ultramarine blue and cobalt blue. This is mine, warm and cool. They don't have to be yours. Cad yellow medium, cad yellow lemon, cad red light, alizarin crimson, and of course you're going to have white on there. And that's considered a limited palette. Back when I started with oils, I don't know, 14 years ago or whatever, I had one blue, one yellow, and one red, because I had a book by Kevin McPherson, who is a well-known, very good artist, and that's all he used, and that may still be all he uses. And you can do a lot with that, but it's more challenging, and I would recommend a warm and cool of each. But learn to mix color again, instead of grabbing a tube of, you know, green. And there are colors that are really handy to have on your palette, like orange. You can throw orange into a lot. And you could put a tube of orange on there, but, you know, learn to mix first. And a lot of times when I'm painting, I will mix up an orange and set it over there to the side. You know, like, you know, just the orange stuck into a green doesn't, you know, that will kill your green. Boy, look at this paper. I can hardly push these around already. But try things and have fun with it. It is such fun. Like I said, maybe we'll do this again. I'll look, let's see, we've been at this about 20 minutes. If I could have found that stack of color chips, we actually, and it might be better to do it when I've got better lighting. You can let me know how this is for you. I've obviously got this light shining right on here. If that seems to work well, let me know that in the comments, and I'll find those color chips, and we'll do this again, and we'll actually, you know, try to match some. There were some crazy colors I had in there, some turquoise, and but you know, get good at this first, and then consider expanding your palette if you want to. I occasionally, if you watch me, I will occasionally put phthalo blue out. That's an amazing, beautiful color. This tube's been through heck, it lasts a long time. But this is phthalo blue, and it's beautiful, but it's extremely powerful. It can just take over your painting. So, you know, it's a good idea to more experienced to learn how to use it. But let me show you, it's just a beautiful, beautiful color. Look at this. Hope you can appreciate that. It's beautiful. And there are people that use it in their skies. I tend to use it, I like to paint a lot of the ball jars, the green, blue ball jars, and I like it for that. Like if I was doing a ball jar, I would start with some of that, and I put a little yellow in to pull it more green. I mean, it's beautiful. It can also ruin your painting if you're not careful with it. You got to know what to do with it. But I mean, it's just a beautiful color. A lot of people use it in their skies. Well, I hope that was fun for you. I just felt like mixing some color and playing around in here. Again, this is not the best surface for it either. But pick you up some paint chips. You know, go for some challenging colors. I always say greens, turquoise colors. I mean, before we go here, let's just try. I mean, I like, okay, that's beautiful, right? The phthalo blue. Let's see what we could do to pull ourselves. Turquoises are challenging. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm playing around here to see if we can get anywhere near that. I know we're very green right now. I can see that. Okay. I mean, we probably will not be able to get that intensity, but I was trying to see if we could get something, you know. Okay, so look at it. It's obviously too chalky. See, that even with the addition of white was still beautiful. So, I'll put a little more yellow. I may never get it there. I don't know. Let's try. I mean, it's yellow and it's green. That's what it is. And white. I mean, it's not red. This is why people, you know, resort to these two colors. There's usually some that, and I do that too. I do that when I'm after this color. I do, you know, I do go for the phthalo when I'm after that beautiful rich blue-green. So you can see I'm not going to get there, probably. But Kevin McPherson probably could. I've got one of his videos where you just wouldn't believe the colors he gets. Yeah, I'm a lot more blue. Okay, I'm looking at it, seeing here. I'm just trying things. It's just paint, right? I'm keeps going back and forth, throwing blues and greens in it. Yeah, I'm just not going to be able to get it there. Again, this is why I use a phthalo for just few things. You'll see me once in a while. But I mean, it's obviously more blue than anything, you know. If you said to me, what color is that? Name one color. What would you say? You'd say blue, right? Value-wise, see, we're just not going to get there. And again, when you put white, then you start lightening, but of course you start adding that coolness comes in. Yeah, we're just not going to quite be able to nail it. But, I mean, not that it would be terrible. I mean, the ball jar would still, it's about value most of all, and it would still look good. Let me show you that little red thing that I have. Wait just a sec. I showed you the red glasses last time. This is really old and not in great shape. I always say they're well loved. This is called a Picture Perfect Viewfinder. Had it for a long, long time. This has red windows, It has the squares with composition lines, so you can look through that and set up your composition. But you can look through this. Yep. You can look through the red windows for value. You can use this. Gosh, this is so dried on here. Let's get some of this over here. I wasn't really trying to, I wasn't thinking so much about value, but let's just see if we can how close we got in value to our turquoise pile. Get it down here where you can see it. Okay. Let's see if we can get you to look through it in the light. Can you tell? They're pretty close in value. But what this does is the same as the red glasses. When you look through here, it gives everything a red tint. And then you see value, which is the lightness or darkness of a color, which is more important than anything, more important than color. And again, and this also has a value scale on it. You can still order these, I think, if you're interested. Again, this one is pretty beat up. But what you can do and what I have done, which is fun, say I want to mix up a color and I want it to be value 5, okay? I don't go to this right away. I'll use the value scale and I'll mix it up and just kind of compare and squint and compare. And then when I think I've got it pretty close, then I'll look through the red window at the value and the color that I mixed to see how close I got. You can really tell then, because then you're not looking. Color can really confuse you. It can really throw you off, I can tell you that. All right, well that was fun. Again, there's the color I tried to mix up, and I mean it's not terrible, and it would work, but I couldn't get that beautiful phthalo blue. But think about, again, learn color, get your book on color, and learn about which is your warm and cool of each primary, because it really is helpful when you're mixing. Like you can see the beautiful purple we got by using my cool blue and my cool red versus, you know, I used the ultramarine and the cad red light and got a very grayed purple. So something to consider, you know. And learn to mix greens because you'll find them very useful. But as you notice, if you watch me paint when I do still lifes, I frequently will block in the background with a grayed color. And what grays do, again, is make your saturated colors pop more. So grays are very, very useful. And usually if I'm just trying to make a gray, I will just, for the background, for example, I will start with the 3 primaries. Blue and yellow, which makes green, and then I'll throw some red in to kill it. Okay, and then you can check it with some white and decide which way you want to pull it then. Okay, to me that still looks too green. Hope you can see what I'm doing. So I would put more red in it. And sometimes you're trying to do a gray background, but you want it to be more, maybe more of a blue gray, and you can pull it that way. You know, so you get a gray when you mix the 3 primaries, and then decide, you know, do I want a cool gray, or do I want a warm gray, and pull it that way. You know, just keep at it till you get what you want. Right now, oops, wow, that must have been on my knife. Oh, that's that blue sitting right there. See, that's that phthalo blue, that crazy phthalo blue. Anyway, that's what I do for a gray. I start with the 3 primaries, and yeah, it just makes a nice muddy gray color. And then you can decide if you, again, sometimes I want a cool gray background. I want it to lean more toward blue. So in that puddle, I do that. I just take it more toward blue. But when you mix up a color, first thing you want to ask yourself, how is it wrong? Does it need to be lighter or darker, or warmer or cooler? And that's how you start adjusting it then. You know, but start somewhere. Just mix you up a puddle, and then again, should it be lighter, darker, or warmer or cooler? Those are the things you ask yourself. and you go from there. So I hope this was helpful to somebody. I mean, please ask me any questions that you might have. Leave me comments. Again, let me know how this lighting was, if you think it was okay. And oh, don't forget my giveaway. Christmas night, I'm going to give away a oil painting, and you just have to subscribe to my channel and go to the video that says giveaway 500 subscribers. It's down a couple, and comment on that video, and I'll be choosing a winner from that comment section. All right, thanks for joining me. This was about 35 minutes, not too bad. Hope you enjoyed it and got something out of it. All right, have a wonderful evening. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.